Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Shah HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who are well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This should put upon the wealth of the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp, come with a quick lesson to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And just real quick, man, I wanted to just do a lesson on this conversation, right, that I overheard at work the other day. I was me and the brother were on the job, and people were talking about the logins on the computers and things of that nature. And somebody just brought up, what if we could just have the key implanted into us or going under the skin, So brother, we looked at each other knowing exactly what that would be, right? But it brings to mind how all these people ultimately are going to be more than willing to take that device, man, to take that chip, right? Whether they because it's going to be offered up as a means of salvation, right, from the troubles that people are in. But even before that, it's going to be, seen as the new what's the word? The trend, the fad, right? The same way, the same way they have these, GLP-1 weight loss things or the different diets or clothing trends and things of that nature. They're gonna use these celebrities, right? They're gonna offer this thing as a means of convenience, something that's gonna be, life changing, so to speak, right? Which it will be, right, for the worse. But the majority of people, it's like the majority of people are going to be right ready and willing to take that device, man. Right, whether it be in the brain or under the skin, you know. So I wanted to just read this here, Revelation 13 and verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor. Actually, let's start up because part of that verse 14 it says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Right, and we're seeing those miracles take place. Right, that first was them having that nuclear bomb or that atom bomb. Uh, test during World War II, right? And them dropping that on Japan, right? And the world saw that. But now they're being deceived through the American way, right? The Americanization of the entire globe, right? That's a great deception, right? So now, like it says, they're making an image to the beast, right? The image, right, is what you're seeing right now, man. Um, which had a wound by a sword and did live. So the Roman Empire's influence, right? Because we're in the revived Roman Empire. The revived Roman Empire, being Babylon the Great America, has its influence spread throughout the whole earth, man, right? And had the power to give life into the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? And that's what you're seeing, right? People being cut off, man. People being separated from society for refusing, uh, uh, ultimately refusing this mark of the beast, this chip, right? But even when you take a step back from regular society, right, you get ostracized, man, right? They're making what's the word, legislation about people who speak ill of AI and things of that nature, the data centers, right? So now you're going to be looked at as public enemy number one, you know. But the mass majority of people, right? You see uproars, right? But there are a lot of people who are just going along with the flow, man, right? And the mass majority of people, instead of pushing against it, are gonna just go with it, man, right? And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And we already see, I believe it's Switzerland or Sweden, right, where they have people getting chips implanted in them. There are people in the states, right, who are getting chips implanted in them. Right, you got Neuralink, and other companies, right, that are working on brain chips. Right, you got who was it recently? Um, well, you had Ti and Yaki, right? They were talking about the mark of the beast, right? Um, Aaron Rodgers, that's what it was. Aaron Rodgers was talking about it, right? All these people, it's the mainstream now, man, right? And they're preparing the minds of the people, right, to be presented with this device, man. You know, and now the vast majority of people are gonna be willing to take it, man. Right now, you'll have the Bible Belt, people who are, you know, so-called religious, right, that recognize it as the mark of the beast. But then that's when the time of tribulation is going to force them into taking it, man, right? Because they're not going to have the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai on them. You know, that's why it says uh, here in Sirach 11 and 25, in the day of prosperity, there's a forgetfulness of affliction, and in the day of affliction, there is no more remembrance of prosperity, right? So when they're in that time of affliction, right, that's when they're truly going to be tested, right? Let's get that in Revelation, right? Because like it says here, he causeth, that word causeth go into the Greek poieo, right? Let's get that real quick. Causeth, it says poieo, Strong's G 4160. Um, Jumping to the point, it says definition G. It says to make, constitute, or appoint one anything, to appoint or ordain one that. And when you go further into that definition, um, in the Greek, it talks about accomplishing a goal, man. Right? Reach. What's the word? Pretty much accomplishing the purpose that they've set forth. Right? And that's what they're trying to do, is to ultimately accomplish, right, the goal of defiling the the elect, man. That's really what they want to do, right? They want complete control over people's mind, bodies, and souls, man. You know. Let's get this here. Yep. This is Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. It reads, actually, I'll read the NLT. Revelation 3 and 10 in NLT. Because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world to test those that belong to this world. Right? So everybody's gonna, be tested, right? There are people who are gonna fail the test from the jump, right? And then there are those who are gonna, continue on until that last minute, man, right? And then end up failing at the end, right? Because people are gonna take this, right, unbeknownst to them, right, of what it is, man, right. That's why the mark of the beast conversation, right, has become, national headlines, pretty much, man, right. Through the spirit of Yahweh Shemi Shai operating in the prophets first and foremost, man, right. But like I taught the lesson, these people are gonna be more than willing to take it, right, because they're gonna be in a state of great testing, man, right. This is that final test, of your faith. And we know that they don't have the faith of Yahweh Bashim Shai, man. That's why it says here they're gonna fall victim, right, to the devices of this devil, man. Revelation, not Revelation. Second Thessalonians 2 and verse 8, it reads, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, right? So this AI, right? The so-called miracles, as you read it talks about pseudos, right? The lying wonders, or those pseudo sciences, the pseudo miracles, that are attached to this AI and these chips, right? All these things are going to be used to deceive the people, right? To convince them that this chip isn't a detriment, man, right? Right? Ultimately to your spirit, but to your physical body as well, man, right? I think it's Revelation 14 where it talks about that grievous sore, right? We'll get that real quick. Let's see. See. It's a lot. 16. It's Revelation 16, verse 2. I'll start in 1. I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of the Most High upon the earth, right? And that's what we're seeing right now, right? In these plagues and pestilences, right? Just prophecy going out, man, right? The Lord's pleasure, right? Being in destruction, right? This wicked society, this wicked kingdom, right? And he poured out his vial, and the first poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Right? And this is what we're seeing, man, or this is what we're going to see, rather, right? Is those who take that chip are gonna have those pus-filled wounds, right, from that radiation, right, and whatever whatever else they put in that thing, man, right? That's gonna be the what's the word the visible confirmation of people who have got that mark, man, right? Because they're gonna have those pus-filled grievous wounds, man, right? Like it says in the NLT, malignant sores broke out on everyone who had the mark of the beast and who worshipped his statue, right? Or those who worship this image, right? Because people are slaves to the convenience of Babylon the Great, man, right? You saw, I keep bringing it up, but the way people came from other countries, the way people came from other countries to this World Cup in America, and they saw, right, the liberty and convenience that Americans live in, man, right? The conveniences of Babylon, the beauty so called of the whore, right? That's the conveniences that are gonna ultimately, be to their downfall, man. You know? So that again, that's the people worshiping this image. They worship, right, this Babylonian way, right? Whether they know it or not, you know? People might talk down on it, but they indulge in all the conveniences and the lavish lifestyle, so called, right? That Babylon affords them, right? And it's going to be hard for them to separate from that, you know. And in order uh, to maintain their comforts, right? Their comforts, once these conveniences are taken away, they're going to run to take that device, man. Just going back to that, that story or that conversation we overheard at work, right? People are gonna do anything to get that next level of convenience, right? Because again, the world is getting tougher and tougher to live in, right, underneath this devil. So now they're gonna present this as a means of salvation, right? So going back to that Second Thessalonians 2 and verse 11 or verse 10, it says, and with all deceivableness, actually we're reading the NLT, it says he will use every kind of evil deception, right? Everything in his toolbox is coming out, man, right? To deceive the masses, right? Whether it be the poisons in the food, whether it be putting them putting them in straits, right? Perplexity, as the scriptures talk about, right? All these are tools, right? The fear of the plagues that are coming, right? You know, they're going to offer this as a means to escape, right? That discomfort. He will use every kind of evil deception to fool those on their way to destruction because they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. And what's the truth, man? That you have to refuse this device at all costs, man. Right? Stand firm for the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? Whether you lose your life, well, and be willing to lose your life for it, man. Right? Because we're not living on this side. But the vast majority, again, of people, they're already sealed, man. Right? They've already decided that, they're gonna take it, you know, uh, to maintain themselves, man. Right? They would take it just to have the next one up on technology, right? To be the first person, right? Or to even have the conveniences of being able to not carry your keys and wallet and the things they advertise about it, man, right? But that just sparked my spirit the other day, because as me and the brother were talking after we got off the job, right? So the vast majority of people are gonna be willing to take this before it even gets hard out here, man, right? Once they present it, as something that's so-called medically safe, it's gonna be right. You see commercials for it the same way you got the Serena Williams GLP-1s, and you see all these celebrities taking that stuff, man, right? They're just gonna present it as the next medical advancement, man. You know, but just a quick lesson to the spirit and power. How about Shemal Shai? Lord well knows edifying. I will close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Urcha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who were well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. Kwame Yasharallah and the Bible Ball. Shalom.